why did you feel like this was such a good time to release and write this book?
Well, there was some interest in what sparked the thought was there was a podcast called Celebrity Book Club, and these two women talk about, memoirs and things, and they were curious how my mother would let me at such a 16 date a 24-year-old drug addict musician. And so I sort of did a clap back or whatever it's called, saying, well, my mother was really sick to her stomach over it. And then people were just curious about the 90s. And I just wanted to talk about my life, with my father's Donovan, the musician, and what it was like for me. And I'm kind of a remote person to most people, but my friends know me. So it felt just really good to have people know my mind and how I feel and my side of things in a broader sense. And just the whole project had such a good feeling, and there was so much interest, and it felt very good. So it just felt like the right time. Well, I'm not that old, but I felt old enough to handle myself.
Do you mind sharing a little bit about that relationship that you were in with
Oh,
Anthony Kiedis? Just,
with Anthony.
yeah.
Yeah, I met him and I honestly, fortunately, never, even though I grew up in a bohemian lifestyle, we never had people who had serious drug problems in the house like that. So when I heard I did a movie with Flea, who's in the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he was talking about my best friend, he's in rehab, and I just was so young, I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. I had no idea. And then when I met him, I don't know. I wasn't, I never, we never, I never really fell in love, but I got very ensnarled in, he's very interesting. I loved him and cared about him. And before I knew it, we were dating and we were living together. And I was just sort of, I don't know why. I thought I was curious about him and that group. It seemed so interesting, but scary. And then before I knew it, I was kind of over my head and kind of hiding out, because when, people are in that situation as drug addicts, they hide. So I just was sort of like embarrassed and hiding him in a weird way. And then my life got a bit small, but luckily I was doing like say anything. And when I would be working, I would feel vibrant, good when I was around my friends. So thankfully, the contrast of like, wait, when I'm with Anthony in our apartment and watching him, be crazy and leave and come back and I'd feel terrible. And when I'm here with my friends working and stuff, I feel like normal and myself. So thankfully that I snapped out of that relationship. But it was really awful, to be honest. I mean, I love him and I'm, happy. I think he's doing well. We don't really see each other a lot, but there's some love there still because he really made like big amends, proper amends to me. But that was gnarly, and I feel for myself that I had to go through that.
Yeah. I mean, and you were 16 years old.
16, 17, yeah.
I mean,
Crazy.
when I was a 16-year-old, if Anthony Kiedis had asked me to, I would have done anything I could to have moved in with him.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in Kentucky, so that might as well have been the moon. But I understand this feeling when you're 16 and you
Yeah.
have this thing, this dream or whatever, and you think, wow, this person,
And you have no
well,
history, at least luckily for me, I didn't know what I was getting into. And then it was like a little bit too late until I realized, oh, you don't have to do this actually. But yeah, it was now I would see something like that and think, oh, God bless you, but I'm not moving in with you. But then I didn't know what I was in for.
right. Yeah. Well, we learn that with age. I mean, we just
Hmm.
learn that as we get older. There's,
Hmm.
okay, that maybe wasn't a good idea to do that. And then
Hmm.
you also, because you were doing the acting, you had signed the emancipation so you could work.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That was part of it. And my mother was actually nervous about that because she didn't know the business inside and out. Like she wasn't like a, savvy. But she knew she had some friends who were creative. But when that started, she was a little nervous. Like, what does this mean? And it did make me feel a little bit like I'm a grown up now. So it did what she hoped it wouldn't do, which was make me think I was a grown up But the industry or the producers explained, oh, this will just, she'll work a little longer hours like an adult, but it won't really mean much. But it actually did make me feel a little older, and I don't know if that was so good at that time, or
Wow.
if I should have just stayed home and, worked, but from my house, not in an apartment with Anthony.
Yeah. I mean, and it did sound really, really rough. And
Hmm.
I mean, I really haven't been around someone that was that addicted, but just seeing other people who are addicted and how hard that is.
Yeah.
And just to
Yeah.
see that he's still alive.
Oh, I know. He's like we were joked that he's like a tiger. I think his Chinese astrology sign is tiger or something. And I remember reading about it in one of those books, and it was like they're like a cat. They have like 9 lives. And I was like, well, he really has 9 lives.
He
He is,
must.
if there's any truth to all this stuff, I don't know.
I'm going to flip back to your marriage to Adam.
Hmm.
And, I another group, the Beastie Boys, hanging out with Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Beastie Boys. And he sounds like a lovely person. I mean, it
Hmm.
sounds like it was.
Hmm.
And I think you can tell a little bit about why, that was lovely. And then it didn't end up working out.
Yeah, it just so yeah, I had the instinct to be married, which I actually love. So I like being married, but I was for me 21 was too young, and I found myself wanting to well just also go out. It was the 90s in New York. My brother was dating a model. It was this all of a sudden this going out seemed really fun to me. And I started dating women, and I just, for some reason, I don't know. I don't know why. I was in therapy trying to figure it out because I was like, what is this? I don't know what this means. But and Adam sort of saw what was happening, and he said, "Look, I got my going out of the way. I'm ready to settle down, but you seem to be wanting to do it now, so you should do it." And I wanted to be married for I loved him. I loved the security of it. It was a buffer from the outside world. We had this cozy life together. So I was like, let me just give me a minute, give me some time. And just a couple years passed and it wasn't going anywhere. I still wanted to go out and date. So we both were like, oh, we're, because I don't know if we had met like 10 years or 20 years later, he might have been a great match. But I found somebody who's an amazing match, if not better, because I don't know. He's like, and he's like very outgoing, and Adam and I were kind of shy and quiet. So I don't know. There's so many reasons why I'm so happy, and I found somebody. So I did learn that I like being married when I was with Adam. But yeah, I was just experimental, and for some reason, I've always wanted to be with men for more of a proper relationship. But for a little while, I thought maybe. I'll be married to a woman or something, but it just seemed to, for some reason, whatever, if there's a spectrum or something, I'm more inclined to want a relationship with men.
I was going to ask about Say Anything because that was such
Hmm.
I don't know, it's iconic. I mean, it is
Yeah.
the boombox. Can you share about how you were, John Cusack wasn't on board yet and how that song came to be in the movie?
Yeah, I did a couple auditions. Like the first one I did, Cameron Crowe called and said, "You're going to come back. We want you to come back, but you have to try a little harder." Like I think I was scared and not giving it my all. So I gave him my all. I get the part, but Cameron Crowe said, I want John Cusack so bad, but he doesn't want to do a teen rom-com movie. He's done with those, and I need to explain that that this is not that movie. And in fact, the movie was meant to be more a story about a father and a daughter, about how you can have this great relationship and then my character finds out that he's been embezzling, and how do you deal with that? But the love story became such a huge part because of the chemistry and just it was just such a beautiful love story. But we convinced John Cusack together that it wasn't a dumb movie, that it was going to be, well written and all of this. So then I was quite intimidated because he and Joan Cusack who played his sister and his real life sister. They were just so smart and they'd been doing movies already and so kind of so intelligent and so good and so brave as actors. And I just wanted to be just as good as they were. And so that was kind of nerve-wracking, but I started once we filmed, I was starting to feel, okay, I've got this. And then who knew that boombox scene? Like when we filmed it, we weren't like, this is the scene. It wasn't some I think films have set pieces, which I've learned late in life mean a big sort of series of scenes that are kind of, a lot of work and they involve a lot of, whatever, action or actors or things. And then they probably know, well, this sequence is going to be amazing. But with this movie, we had no idea this one scenario was going to capture the imagination of so many people. And so then, and the song, Cameron Crowe wanted an Elvis Costello song, and Elvis Costello passed on it. And we were really sad about that. I actually wasn't into Elvis Costello yet. I got into, so they were really sad. But then he got Peter Gabriel, that song, which turned out to be just perfect.
It,
Like
it
such
was.
a beautiful song, so big and so romantic.